Hey, hello, we are live now. We're live. We did it. And we're joined here by a very special guest. We have like a really special opportunity here to look at a project file by Taska Black. And I'm joined here with Taska Black, and he's here to tell us all about it. Say hello,
Yes.
Taska Black.
Hey man, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty excited about this. This is like the first really big opportunity we've had to look into what I would call a professional grade track. You know, the song "Dead Inside" just recently got released on Bitbird.
Yep.
Also was a music video which we can like also talk about. But for everybody who doesn't know who Taska Black is, why don't you like just do a short explanation for people who are just not in the know yet?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a 21-year-old guy. I live in Belgium and I make music. And yeah, I've had a couple of releases on Son Holo's label Bitbird on Lowly Palace. And yeah, a month ago I released my first single on Monstercat. And
That's
yeah,
a great
like you
single,
said, I
by
just
the way. We would
thank
never
you,
do.
thank you.
It's
Yeah, exactly.
fantastic.
Thank you. So yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell.
Cool. That's that's really nice. And yeah, you were awesome enough to actually like send us the project file of Dead Inside, so we can actually have a look at how it was made, all the individual elements. Yeah, and just take a look at all the drums and like the bass sounds and how you did your layering, and like we'll get to things like vocal processing and even your master chain, because that looks like as a thing of beauty. There are like, I see 2 Ozone 5s on there, 2 like limiters. It's like, ooh, this is good.
Yeah. You're gonna get in my nasty way of doing things on the master.
No, I don't think any. It's like, you know, mastering's like making a sausage. It's all about like the end result, but maybe not what goes. Like the result isn't always the prettiest, but how it tastes, I suppose, is the best way to describe
Exactly.
the mastering chain. Okay, so I just thought I would like maybe just break the ice a little bit, just get a little bit comfortable before we dive into the project, which we will be doing. By like asking you some questions, and also everybody watching the screen can also ask some questions, because we have a Gleam link in the description box. I'm pretty sure most of you watching are familiar with me using Gleam links, but this time we're using them to ask questions. So if you have a question that you would like to ask Taska Black, then go into the description box and yeah, you can just drop a question. And we haven't like figured out exactly how we're going to do this, but we might also be checking out some tracks, some SoundCloud tracks, if we have the time. We didn't want to make this like a really long stream. We're probably going to keep this around an hour, maybe an hour and a half or so. But if we do have the time, then we might just, you know, check a couple tracks out. But we'll see how it goes with times. But, you know, if you put it down, then who knows? It could happen, and, you know, Taska Black could be checking out your track, and who knows? If he really likes it, I don't know, you might even like play it live or something.
Maybe you'll earn yourself a repost or something.
Yeah, whoa. Okay, that's pretty exciting. Damn, I should probably like put my own question and track in there now. Okay, so I mentioned just like performing live. You've done it a couple of times now. What would you say? So you do just traditional like DJ sets at the moment?
Yeah, I'm doing DJ sets for a while now, but I'm thinking about more of a live setup for in the future, but it won't be for this year, I think.
No.
So I'm going to stick to DJ sets definitely for a while.
Uh-huh. And how is that, like, performing live? Do you, like, how long you said, so you've been doing it a couple of years. Was it a difficult thing to get into? Because I'm pretty sure by now you're playing to some pretty big crowds.
I used to do like a couple of small shows before I did Taska Black. And since I started Taska Black, I've had the opportunity this year to go on a couple of shows with Son Holo.
Yeah, that must have been pretty sick.
Yeah, it was really fun to do. So we did a couple of shows in Europe. So yeah, these were my first actual Taska Black shows, so it's really fun to do. Yeah.
And you don't like have a problem with like standing up to a big crowd and performing, like nerves? Is that something that affects you or goes into like before playing a show, you're like, oh damn, I'm nervous?
Well, strange enough, I only have nerves like a week before a show when I need to prepare everything.
Uh-huh.
I have nerves like, but the day itself, I'm pretty relaxed, and especially when I need to go on stage, I barely have nerves.
Wow,
So
that's really
that's a
cool. It's
good
like you
thing.
go into
Yeah,
like a Zen mode or something.
yeah, it's weird, but yeah, it's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, I would say like I can't say that's a negative. So that's pretty cool. Um, let's talk a little bit like an origin story. Like, how did you really start making music? Well, how long have you been making music actually?
I think I started somewhere when I was 13 years old. I'm 21 now, by the way.
Okay,
So yeah, for quite a while now.
yeah, that's quite long.
But the long story is I started playing the violin when I was 4.
Uh-huh.
Later on, I took piano lessons and music theory. But after a while, I figured I was much better at writing my own melodies and than playing existing songs from sheet music. So I bought my first audio interface when I was 13, so I could record all my melodies that were in my head and I was playing around with on my little keyboard.
Uh-huh.
So I guess that's where everything started.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Um, and I also like just this year, at the beginning of this year, you like made the decision to actually stop studying college, I believe, to pursue
Yeah,
music full time.
yeah, that's right.
What were you actually studying before? Was that also a music related thing, or was it just a different field? And you were like, well, let's focus on music because it's just going so great at the moment.
Yeah, I was studying for engineer actually, so that's something totally different.
Yeah, that is very
But
different.
so after a while, I felt like I wasn't really passionate enough about the engineering thing, and
Uh-huh.
music was going so well after a while that I decided to drop out of college and do music full time.
Cool. Well, like music is almost a type of engineering in like
Yeah,
in
it
some
is.
ways.
Yeah,
Um,
production is really some type of engineering, I guess.
it can get pretty technical. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Actually, a lot of the physical aspects from my engineering studies were very useful when producing.
there are things like waves and like
Yeah,
the
exactly.
breakdown of waves that can be a quite interesting thing. Like knowing the right frequency to play waves at for like the right size room is a quite interesting thing, and that's kind of why they say like, oh, you should only have your sub at like at F or F sharp because that's like the
Yeah.
best frequency. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty fun, that kind of stuff. Um, so for other producers out there who are also making really good stuff, and maybe they just don't have, well, like they have the production skills and they make great stuff, what would you say to them to help get their music out, to like get the exposure that they might be looking for?
First of all, I'd say don't send your music out too early. I mean, you need to get to a level where you're 100% confident about what you're making before
Uh-huh.
you're going to send it out to labels and promotional channels and whatnot. So I think that's the first big thing. I think a second big thing to get noticed by A&Rs and whatever is to sort things out for yourself as far as future vision and social media go.
Mhm.
So you don't need to have the perfect social media page yet. You don't need to have a completely packed Instagram yet, but at least people got to know what your vision is.
Okay, what you're all
So
about.
yeah, so you got to figure out what you're all about, what your style is, what your vision to the future is, how you want to do things,
Yeah.
and make sure people are able to see that. And I think that can be a real positive thing for people to notice you.
Would you say it's like important to have a unique selling point to like to stand out as well, something that's like only unique to you, or is that not as important as just the quality of music or the style or aesthetic that you have surrounded by yourself?
I think that's a good point, but I think that's one of the hardest things to do. Having one special thing that makes you unique. For a long time, I didn't know what that thing was in me, but other people could see it. So I think it's really hard for someone to make something and know exactly what makes you unique, but you got to make sure you just do what you think you do best.
Yeah.
And just, focus on what you're good at instead of what you're bad at.
Okay. I think that's a pretty good answer. I noticed something following like your career path, but also other Bitbird artists like Julu and Sunholo, that they all kind of like let's say cut their teeth, as the expression goes, on Bitbird, and then they, each of them, including you, seem to have also like moved on to having releases on Monstercat. But I find this interesting because it feels like these artists, especially Sun, because he kind of made the Bitbird label, are still sort of signed to Bitbird, and it would almost seem exclusively as the most of their releases are on Bitbird. But then like Julie will come out with a song that is on Monstercat, and then you just had your song last month on Monstercat. So is there some sort of like working relationship between Bitbird and Monstercat, and how does that actually work out in reality?
Yeah, I guess it's just a coincidence that all three of us released on Monstercat, but I think Monstercat just shares the vision, and we really vibe with what Monstercat is doing. So for us, it's a logical move to release a song on Monstercat, because for us that's a chance to show our music to new people and reach new fans. And of course, Monstercat has a huge fan base, and I've been wanting to do something with Monstercat for a long time now. So it's been great that they like the track that I sent them. So
yeah,
that's a good chance
I don't
for me
think that
to
was
get new
like
fans.
hard. You know, you could have sent it to anybody, and they would have been like, "Yeah, we like this a lot." Oh yeah, so yeah, Dead Inside. You also, so this song just, it's like it's been officially sort of released as an audio track in just the last couple of days, but this was also last week out as a music video, and you can kind of just show fragments of this on screen. It's quite interesting, the music video. You said you had like a big part of it, or like you took part in its development.
Yeah, so when I was making this record, I wrote these lyrics. And Dead Inside kind of refers to a depression, especially amongst millennials, because of the internet and the very saturated news era we live in with social media and everything. So it kind of invokes a depressed feeling, and I wanted to visualize that depressed feeling from the beginning. And when we started talking to the directors, they had some great ideas for that. And then, yeah, we went to shoot those ideas into a couple of different scenes, like a girl laying on the ground, on the wet ground with her eyes closed, but eyes
we
drawn
talked a
on her
little bit
eyelids.
about this wet ground. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a brave scene. And also I noticed there's like mascara under her eyes as well. So it's kind of like she has two eyebrows, like one underneath and one on top. That's what is the significance of that? Was there like a meaning behind that?
I guess we wanted to do something absurd, like there's also confetti coming out of the coffin. So so
I thought that was like really fun imagery. But I was always wondering, it's like, does it look cool, or does there actually is like well, you know, this represents the explosion of our imploding, you know, society and that kind of stuff.
It's more of representing the depressed feeling, being dead but not actually being dead. So the girl looks like she's dead, but she still has eyes drawn on her eyelids.
They're her eyelids.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're so that's why. Okay, so it's not mascara underneath. That's just her eyelashes.
Yeah,
and the eyes are closed. Yeah. Oh, I thought her eyes were open. Okay, yeah, I actually thought they were like actually open. That you totally fooled me. Like, yeah, I feel like pretty dumb now. Let's move on to a different part of the video, I suppose. Then, like smoke coming out of a computer, and then I like the picture with like all the escape buttons. That's a good picture.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Was it fun doing the car scene where like you're just spinning around in a car?
It was really hard. We had to do it a couple of times. It's very hard to try not to laugh when someone's trying to drift such a small car on a parking lot. It's really hard. So we had to do it a couple of times over.
Their takes just because you kept out.
Yeah. And there's also like this huge camera in your face, so it's really hard to stay serious.
Yeah. Well, you did a good job, I have to say. Like, you do look very serious whilst like
Thank you.
Turning around in this car. And is this you in the very sensual scenes? Or is it just a body double that they got to represent?
It's me in front of the computer, but the previous scene you showed, that was not me.
Okay. Okay.
So it's me in the car, it's me in the coffin, and it's me in front of the computer.
I was just talking with this with a friend. I'm like, oh, there's a banana tattoo. I was wondering if like, do you have a banana tattoo and is this you? But
No.
okay, so we got to the bottom of that. Okay. So what else? I suppose we can start kind of digging into the project file now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and so yeah, it sounds like amazing. It's so cool to like just hear it and be like, damn, this is exactly what it sounds like. You know, when I listen to the music video, when it plays audio. It's not playing audio. Why not?
Ouch.
Oh, I know why. Because I just did the fade out little thing. So yeah, there's like a little utility. So that'll be why. Yay! That was why.
There we go.
Yeah, that really does like live up to the build up. So really good job there. Something I noticed about the track straight away, like off the bat. Well, two things. It's like you don't seem to like to use grouping, like groups. Like you color everything, but you don't actually like put them into an actual group.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I made it in Ableton 9.
So
I usually group my kick drums, but I think for this project I send over to you, I bounced it to one stem.
Okay, yeah, I do hear like a couple different kicks in the stem.
Oh yeah, right. So usually I group my kicks, and therefore I can't group in a group my drums with Ableton 9.
Yeah.
But I don't have Ableton 10 yet, so.
Okay, well, it's good. I don't know if it's worth the price, but it is an improvement. And the second thing I noticed is that you tend to use a send bus for sidechaining. So like if I go to this lead and I can see like the output is sends only, and the output is going to ascend, which means that everything is going to this bus that gets sidechained by the kick.
Yeah, I have a couple of ways of doing sidechaining, and this is one of those. Sometimes I do sidechain with like a bus track, an audio track that's used as a bus with the FabFilter Pro C plugins as sidechain compressor. Or sometimes I just manually compress everything on every channel separately with the Ableton compressor.
Yeah, I suppose there's like numerous ways you can sidechain. I don't think anyone's really like the way. They're just all kind of different. I suppose just workflow kind of stuff.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter actually.
No, as long as it sounds good, then that's nice. But you also have a bus for your kicks. So I suppose when you had like a group of them, they will all go to the same bus, kick bus.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense now that it's going through an empty bus, but when they were grouped, it made sense.
So I suppose we can start just, I'm going to like mute all the vocals and the synths and just focus on the drums for now. One thing I noticed is like the drums are very, like some of them are very grainy. So like, let's just take a listen at this kick. It's like that's a very stretched out kick there on the first impact.
Yeah, I was messing around with like stretching out these kicks. And it's a really messed up result actually. Like this is not clean at all. So if you want a clean mix, don't listen to this. But
well, it's interesting how like we can listen to all the individual layers and like some of them do sound grainy, but then when you listen to the whole mix, they just work so well together.
I think the one thing that you need to keep in mind with this project in particular is that all these single elements on themselves sound like shit, but together it sounds pretty good. So.
Yeah, that's I suppose the magic of mixing. It's like to make magic out of seemingly nothing in ways. So the kick and like a couple different kicks you have. It's a very punchy.
Yeah, there's also an 808 under there.
I
just
noticed something
for the
really like
low frequencies.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
kind of see that kind of.
Yeah, that probably should not have been in the bus, but yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. But it's really low. Like you can hardly even notice
Yeah,
it.
it's just for the feel.
Yeah.
I have, when I'm testing out my sub, I have these Yamaha HS8s. So that's an 8-inch cone. So I just stand in the corner where all the bass builds up in my room.
Yeah.
That's how I test the bass for larger systems.
Wow. And yeah, you snare. It's good reverb on the snare. And then we get to the more hi-hat percussion kind of elements. I thought that was quite interesting. So this must have been originally a trap chant vocal, but it doesn't sound like that anymore. Like this has had a lot of processing on it, I believe.
Yeah, I think I put a delay on it and then bounce it to audio.
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Let's see, I'm just gonna like mute him this way. Oh, this thing. And then the little percussion thing at the end. These snares, which I also noticed, they're quite atypical kind of sounding snares. And then the last one is like been pitched down like almost a whole octave, and they're quite vocally almost. It's like there's like a vocal layered in this snare sample.
Yeah, most of it is because of isotope trash that's on it. It's just really stored.
I can take
if
a
you
little...
could unfreeze it, yeah, there we go.
Take a little...
If you could bypass the isotope plugin, you could hear what the snare originally sounds like.
That does sound a lot more like a snare. It's got like the woody.
And the last one is just pitched down really hard, so it doesn't sound like a snare anymore. I just use it as a percussive instrument.
Yeah, it's quite weird. And then the distortion is like going has that weird shape.
Great plugin.
I don't know too much about Trash 2, to be honest, but
you should. It's a great plugin.
Cool. I will dive into the world of distortion. Something else I noticed is like the panning just going crazy, just going.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun to watch whilst it like bounces back and forward. And I will turn that trash back on. It's weird how they call it a plugin trash. Like, hey, buy this trash, you know? I love, making my sounds sound like trash.
It does sound like trash.
And then we have this one as well. What is this?
That's the same one. Oh yeah, maybe that's a delay of the snare.
Okay, yeah, it's a little bit delayed, and then also with some distortion and room kind of stuff. So like when we put them on together, just make an interesting texture to layer with your snares. How would you go about drum arrangement and drum programming in general? I just start with the basic layers, I guess. I start with searching for the right kick, I guess, searching for a good snare. Yeah. What is the trick to finding a good kick and snare? Like how do you know? Like, I mean, okay, it's hard to describe it because you need to like actually listen to it and be like, yeah, that's the right one. But if you could describe it in words, how would you say like, what is the characteristics of good samples versus bad samples?
I guess that's experience, especially in mixing, because there are a lot of really cool kicks out there, but I just can't choose them because they're impossible to mix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what I do these days is I use a separate transient for my kicks. So it's a little bit easier to mix in the transient over the kick. I guess it's just having an idea beforehand what you want for your kick, what you want to sound like. And just experience mixing wise, like how the transient should sound to pop out of the mix. It's hard to explain, really.
No, I understand, but like just that way, if you had like your transient separate from the other part of a kick, then you could have total control over each individual element of a kick. And for people that don't know, I think like they tried to like break down a kick into like 3 different elements. You got that first initial transient, that tick, and then the sort of that talk, I suppose, sound, bit more of the body, and then the low end, the oomph of the sound. And then that's kind of how you can like build a kick up from scratch, is by having all those different elements.
Exactly. What I usually do is I cut my kicks off pretty shortly, but yeah, that's not really the case in this project because this one's got a huge tail, but
yeah.
Usually I just cut them off really short.
Is drums something you begin with, like when you're building a track?
No, never.
Never.
I always start with chords and a melody.
Okay.
Or the vocal and chords, depends.
I've seen like you also have like a lot of vocal instrumental versions, like you'll play your song on the piano and then upload that to Instagram or Twitter. And I wondered, it's like, are those actually like the initial kind of demo versions, or how the track really begun? Do you just sit down at a piano and be like, just write something?
So usually I start all my records sitting behind my piano. So I usually come up with some interesting chords or whatever, and that's where the record starts. And when I'm messing around with the record, sometimes I think like it would be really cool to have an acoustic version of this. And then I go back to my piano and I basically start over and kind of redo things acoustically. So most of the time I just make the acoustic version when the original one is done.
Yeah. Cool. But it kind of has its roots back
in
the acoustic version.
The idea is always there already. So.
Yeah. So the trap hi-hats, classic.
Exactly. Now everyone knows my samples. I should have renamed them.
Yeah, just like generic trap hi-hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. And then some just impact stuff in the intro.
Yeah.
All right, so let's focus now a little bit on the synths side of stuff. I thought quite interestingly was this layering of synths that you have during the sort of the climactic moment, the drop of the track. Where do you think, okay, this is enough, or I need more? Because there are a lot of layers here, and I was wondering, like, is there
way too many layers?
Well,
this is like, way too much.
You think this is too much then?
Well, you never know if you need to add more stuff or leave it as it is, because usually when you keep adding stuff, it's going to be louder and it's going to sound better. But mixing wise, you got to put a hold on things when it's getting too much.
Uh-huh.
So I've actually deleted a couple of layers that were in the original file, but I had to get them out mixing wise because it was going to get too much to mix down.
Yeah. Okay, so you kind of maybe like make more than you might possibly need and then cut back.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And we can take a listen at this stuff. Just the sub, and then layer that with the bass, which I noticed was a sampled bass.
Yeah. I think I made
like a segment was taken and like played up and down on the keyboard.
Yeah, I made it in Simpler and then bounced it to audio. I think I took it from a sample, or I made it in Serum, I'm not sure. Just a standard Reese bass, and I wanted that looped effect. So I took a little snippet of the bass sound and put it in Simpler.
Yeah, that's very drum and bassy.
Yeah, I know. I used to be into drum and bass, so I had a lot of these samples in my library. So,
that's quite interesting, actually. Like a history into drum and bass. Let's see, and then there's almost like a very Leslie kind of sound, like a distorted organ. And then we have massive supersaws. Yay!
There we go.
with the pitch and the lope.
Don't look at the saturator though.
Oh, I've done worse. I've gone like into 20 if I just want to go like overboard.
Yeah,
We
just eyes
can,
closed
like,
and push it.
however, just like maybe listen to it before and after effects, just to get an idea, because you have, you know, EQing and sort of panning effect. That's kind of the Leslie thing I was referring to. Like, yeah, quite a big difference. Although, however, you've taken the phase off of this auto pan, so really it's actually working as a sort of
LFO.
yeah, like an LFO tool thing. I forget what that tremolo. That's it, tremolo. That's the correct term for that. And then also like a big notch around this area. And will this really to like sort of take frequencies away from the vocals, or make room for the vocals, I should say?
I think this was more of a sound design decision.
Uh-huh.
I do this quite a lot. I just mess around with such a notch filter. Also my bass sounds, sometimes I just get out all the 500 frequency range stuff with such a notch filter. Just, sound design stuff.
Okay, just for like characteristic, like coloring the sound.
Yeah, sometimes later on in the mix, I really feel those frequencies are lacking and I have to edit back in.
Okay.
But yeah, I just mess around with it, I guess.
Cool. And like this one, it's almost like a toy piano, is it?
Yeah.
Just like with tons and tons of distortion.
That's Serum. I use that sound a lot. But yeah, obviously I couldn't give you the Serum patch, so I just bounced it to audio.
Oh, that was the trademark Taska Black Serum patch.
Yeah, kind of.
And this one's nice. This kind of choir thing.
Yeah.
That would also move in the same movement with the. They both have that tremolo effect.
Yeah. So most elements, like all the choir elements in this song, and also the ambient lead sound, are sampled from my keyboard. So I have a Yamaha Motive 6 keyboard, and I stumbled across this choir sound. So I started sampling it into Ableton and manually pitching it. And this is what I got. Also,
something I didn't want to like break you up there, but I did notice, like, because there are a lot of stuff recorded, like you do have like then synths that you use in your studio to record.
I only have one keyboard, actually, just one Yamaha Motive 6 with a lot of internal sounds that I sample, and I use some guitars and my piano sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are very, very grainy ones.
Yeah, it sounds really bad on itself, and it's way too distorted. But if you put it off in the mix, or you bypass the distortion in the mix, it doesn't come through enough in the mix.
Ah, that's quite interesting. We'll try that. So if I just do all these lead sounds together. Yeah, you don't really hear that graininess if I just
exactly
these grainy things. Then it's a lot more. Yeah, they add a lot of texture.
Yeah, all the ambience feel.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, on the topic of ambience, I noticed in like another interview you were talking about S1, and then, hey, here it is. We just so happened to come across it. S1. You are a big like fan of stereo imaging, I take it then.
Yes. Yeah, because we were talking earlier that there are so many layers in here, and when you have so many layers, you gotta not only make sure things are not clashing frequency-wise, but also in the stereo field. So sometimes I just put things in the middle of the mix, so mono, and some other things I put really wide in the mix. And that's why I use S1, to give everything a place in the stereo field.
Yeah, I've also noticed that quite recently, like especially like things in the same sort of frequency area, like when they're stereo, like not only does stereo just sound cooler because it's wider, it's like, oh, nice, but then they don't interfere as much. They get out of each other's way a lot more. So
yeah,
it's
a great mixing trick.
Yeah, it's almost like a cheat in a way. It's like it works too well at times.
Yeah, that's the emergency option.
Yeah,
if you can't get it right with an EQ, you just take the S1.
Yeah. Have you tried out other plugins such as, so like in Massive you have the Dimension Expander, but there's also Dimension Expander as an effect plugin, which is made by the same person who made Serum, Steve Duda. That's a nice plugin. And you also have the Ozone Imager, which is like the Ozone Imager for Isotope, but then also has a separate effect. And it doesn't actually do the different bands, but it does like create small delays. So you create like from a mono signal, you could create like a stereo signal just by the fake sort of reverberation, I suppose. Like,
yeah, I think they all sound a bit different though. Like the Serum Dimension Expander, isn't it also with reverb or something?
So you have the hyperdimension, and I think that's like that's based off of the dimension expand from Massive, trying to sound like it. But then you also have the actual reverbs, and I suppose they're all just a little bit slightly different, and I suppose it's just whatever you're feeling.
What I also use is just the standard Ableton delay. You can just put it to 100%, and you can literally, it splits it up in left and right, and you can then delay the left and right channel. So you're basically using it as a stereo shaper.
Delay. Yeah. Have you done that in this project, do you think?
I don't think so.
Okay. But I do know, you can on the simple delay. I don't think you can do it on the ping pong delay. I'm not sure, but I think on the simple delay you can
on the simple
create like
delay.
a Haas effect. I think that's how you say it, Haas or Haas. The hair effect. So here's our like sort of first lead. At least that comes into the drop. I have to ask. Is this is like the vocal that we hear, or I'm probably gonna say her name wrong, but Ayela singing.
Ayel, yeah.
Ayel.
I think it is. I made it a long time ago. I'm not sure, but it is a vocal. It's a little vocal bit that I just distorted extremely hard.
Yeah.
And filtered before distortion. So I choose the frequencies I want to distort, and I boost them crazy hard, and then I tone down on the frequencies I don't want to distort.
Okay. Yeah, and then in the mix.
You're not seeing, you're just seeing the audio sample here, but there's a lot of processing going before this sample. Yeah.
Okay.
It started from a dry vocal, so.
Okay. Yeah. That was something that I wanted to get to a little bit later when we get to the vocal part, which was like the vocal processing, because this is also a bounce track, and but we can get into like the how you just process vocals in general, because that's not I don't see a lot of that sort of material on YouTube, because it's just not something that happens as much, but I suppose it's becoming a lot more, like the demand for there is increasing these days.
Yeah, I had a hard time working with vocalists in the beginning because I didn't know how to comp vocals properly. So I spent so much time just doing research on how to work with vocals properly.
And is this like, do you think, like, was this from a session where you did like tons of takes, and then you just like took the best parts, I suppose?
Yeah. So I did a demo myself. I sung it on my computer speaker. So I had the lyrics and the melody. And then I had a session with Ayel, and I said like, hey, I have this really experimental record, and would you want to sing these things for me? And then we just did numerous takes, and then I go comping word per word.
Cool. So let me just play all the synths from the intro. There's our sampled bass again with our sub as well. We shouldn't forget the sub bass. Some extra stuff down here. So that's when the vocal would come in. I suppose we can try seeing the drums with the rest of the track, because they work very well together, and I'm thinking that's mostly due to the fact that the sidechain is just very well set up to, like, they don't feel like they're clashing. There's like a lot of space. Like, even though there are tons of layers and it's like a huge wall of sound and it sounds huge, the kicks still come in really well. So I suppose like if I just played it without the sidechain, then that kick at
It's
least,
probably gonna fall apart. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that kick, it does sound quite, a little bit more muffled. Although the snare, it's probably just because the snare, because it's like at a much better frequency, quite high.
Yeah.
Just kind of
exactly.
lands on top of the mix. It still comes through. I've seen like other people, and I've done it myself, like sidechain with the snare. Do you often do that?
If it's necessary, but usually I don't find a lot of troubles to let my snare come through the mix. Most of the time, it's just the kick that I need to sidechain to.
Yeah, but not the vocals. The vocals haven't been sidechained to the kick. That's something you wouldn't do.
Sometimes, but I need to be careful with that because I like my vocals to be really on top of the mix. So I don't like to sidechain my vocals too much to the kick.
No, they should be like on top of everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I suppose we can take a look at the vocals now. Something that I thought was really cool is that we can hear the main vocal. I'm losing my mind, thoughts run wild. But then we also have the backing layer, which is a very heavily processed layer. I'm losing my mind, thoughts run wild. I won't survive, I'm dead inside. So do you think you can tell us like what went behind here? Because I hear multiple things. I'm hearing multiple layers, like some harmonizers, and like it's pretty crazy.
So in this case, there's I think a pitched up version with distortion. There's one version with the same pitch, also with distortion. And then what I do is usually I don't record backing vocals. And I mean differently pitched backing vocals, but I just pitch them manually. So I take the original vocal and I pitch every note so it sounds like a backing vocal. But it really sounds like a vocoder or something, but still different. As you can hear, it sounds pretty bad on its own, but I think
thought
it
it
sounds
actually sounded
cool.
really badass. I like the heavily sort of processed. But
Yeah.
so you actually take like each note and be like, okay, I'm just gonna cut this up and be like, oh, let's turn it to a different thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
Ah, that's pretty cool.
Or just with the transposition automation into a clip.
Oh, all right, yeah.
Yeah, then you can cool slides and all that.
Yeah.
But it gets real tricky when
Then I suppose you'd have to have a good like understanding of theory and like understand what key you're in, and because it doesn't actually give you a key like a scale. That'd be a cool thing if it did somehow. Like if it could tell you if somehow, but yeah, that'd be pretty tricky to do.
Most of the time I just hear these harmonies in my head and I just try to replicate them pitch wise.
Yeah.
I'm losing my mind, thoughts run wild. I won't survive, I'm dead inside.
And then
I'm losing my mind, thoughts run wild. I won't survive, I'm dead inside.
So where does that diddle-a-diddle-a-do? Ah, down here. So what was this lead from?
That's a serum pluck that I made, and I bounced it out, and these little notes that you hear are all audio samples from that one synth. So I manually made an arpeggio with it, with audio samples from serum.
Yeah, so like from like a one shot that you made in serum. Yeah. Okay, cool.
So that's how I made the tempo chains.
Yeah. Yeah. I already noticed that like the tempo change at the end. I forget, like it affects the it doesn't, or it does affect the pitch of the
Yeah, I think it does if you warp it, or I think if you don't warp it, it doesn't change the pitch.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah, that was a cool thing. I was like wondering if you'd used a like one of those like tape stop effects. But you actually like automated the tempo.
This worked well, so yeah.
Yeah, it did work. So that's cool. Let's see, what else is there in the project? I feel like the mastering chain, of course.
There we go.
The centerpiece. One of the. How could we almost forget? Like, can you imagine if we didn't do that? So yeah, let's like just for fun, like just listen to it without the mastering chain, and it's gonna sound
really dull.
very quiet as well, probably. Yeah, it's very quiet.
Yeah.
I can still hear that snare though. Something I noticed. So like the snare has just 5% of reverb. But then when you have the mastering chain on, you know, the snare will be louder, but that reverb really like pops out, like really rings out.
Yeah.
So the mastering chain is really like making sure the quiet moments are also kind of getting boosted as well.
Yeah, I didn't want to mess up the snare too much by giving it too much reverb, but I thought it was way too dry because all the other elements are super reverby.
Yeah.
So I thought the snare was initially way too dry, so I just add a little bit of reverb, and I thought this worked well. So.
Yeah. So let's see. Oh yeah. So you first cut the lows and highs. That's a very standard trick. Do you do this often, like cutting like everything below?
I think I actually stopped doing this. I don't know why. I just noticed this when I was working on this project again, because it's such an old project that I was still doing this, but for some reason I stopped doing it.
Okay. So you don't think it's that necessary? It's not gonna make or break a track?
Maybe on huge systems, there's some profit on cutting out everything below 20, but I don't. It's not important, I think.
No. Okay. So when did you actually like finish making this track, and like how long does it take for a track to really get released?
It really depends. Some tracks go really fast. Some tracks I finish within a month and get released like two months later. And some tracks finishing. I've worked on for over a year, and some tracks I just can't finish. It really depends.
Yeah, that must be.
But this one, I don't know. I think this one, this took. I started this one last year, January.
Okay.
So that's a long time.
Yeah, that's a year, at least, like from beginning it to actually seeing it out released. That's a year processed. And of course, you know, you had to factor making a music video that probably like adds
takes time.
extra like.
I think the song was finished somewhere in November last year, I think.
Okay. Well, then the music video was like actually not, you know, a couple months for the music video. I think that's pretty like on a good schedule. If I like, you know, had to guess how long a music video might take, I wouldn't know out of experience though. And then the next EQ is just a very typical cutting the low end, the sides, the low thing. I think that's a pretty good trick. If people aren't doing that already, then they definitely should be. Can you explain why though that you wouldn't want to cut, or you would want to cut the side information?
Basically because you don't want your low end to clutter up so much. So as a rule of thumb, you should have everything below 100 hertz in mono. So that's why I cut everything, all the stereo information below somewhat of 100 hertz. But it's not a very steep cutoff. So somewhere around 100 hertz, I cut it off. Yeah.
Also, you know, a call back to like the sort of engineering physics part. It's like if you have like two different waves that are like really long, so like really low frequency waves, like they're more likely to cancel out if they meet up. So that's pretty important reason to have a like stereo, a mono low end and a mono sub, or else you play it out live and then your waves are just gonna like, you know, some of the people on the dance floor might hear the sub and some people might not, and like that's not cool. You don't really want that.
Definitely.
No. And then we have the a glue compressor on the master.
Sometimes I do use the glue compressor. Sometimes it sounds good, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, really a taste thing, I think.
And this is just for like just getting I suppose the transients on the master to.
Yeah, because it's fairly hard compressed with a very long attack and a short release. So yeah, it's mainly for the transients.
Okay, yeah. And then our first compressor, the Pro C. kind of like, I suppose, the same thing, but then is this also then trying to get the transients down?
I guess this is just a loudness thing. Just a couple of compressors in a row, just taming the peaks to get your to be able to hit the limiter a little bit harder.
Yeah, and you'd prefer to do that with a couple compressors instead of just one? That's a lot stronger.
Yeah, most of the time I do use a couple of compressors, some multi-band compressors and some normal compressors.
Yeah. This one looks really cool because like, whoa, it's got tons and tons of colors. So it looked professional. If someone was like looking from like outside, it'd be like, wow, you know what you're doing. And then like, so yeah, after I can actually build this up, so that'll be fun. Like hear it bit by bit. Although, okay, if I mute all of these, is there a shortcut to do that? Actually, like, okay, nice. I'll also turn it up here in the utility just so we can hear it at lower volumes and kind of listen to what the compression is really doing. Is there something you do like when you add compressors and multibands? Will you like make sure to like listen to the difference before and after, or do you not do that too much?
All the time. Yeah, really. I spread my mastering sessions over a couple of days. So I just need to think about everything and listen to it 100 times and wake up in the morning and listen to it again. Just a really long process.
Yeah, that does sound quite long. And now for our harmonic exciter. Just a little bit of distortion on each of the bands. Mostly the higher bands, not on the subs.
Yeah, because my mixes usually sound very dull and sound like they're low pass or something. So I have to make up for all the high frequencies a lot in my mastering.
There's a lot of like exciting, you know. It's got the word in it. So they don't lie. They make it exciting.
Yeah, it's a very useful tool though. I use it very often on my master chain.
And also the stereo imaging, as we. I mean, this is just a good thing to have on the masters, I think, in general as well. And again, we can see like you've turned down the 100% mono for low frequencies, and then just making the mix sound a lot more wider. Just a bit of extra reach. Yeah,
it's just a taste thing. I think it fitted this track well because it's so ambient. But I don't use it on every track though.
No.
Some tracks just need to be right in the middle with not a lot of stereo information.
Do you think that's more for like clubby tracks or hard-hitting tracks?
Yeah, I've been very careful with going to stereo on things because on some tracks I think you'll lose a lot of focus when you don't have enough mono information. So I'm very careful with stereo spreading things now and spreading stereo on the master.
Like, would you say this mastering chain differs a lot from, let's say, We Would Never Do?
I think that's quite similar. We Would Never Do is very, very compressed master too. But I also have some masters that are barely compressed, that are very compressed in the mix already and don't need compression on the master. So I do use the Fab Filter multi-band compressor on nearly every master though. Okay,
that's cool.
This is a fairly long master chain. I guess the most essential plugins for me are the Pro Q, the Pro C, the Pro MB, and the Pro L. And sometimes I use the Isotope stereo imaging.
Cool, and then just finishing off with some extra limiting. And 2 limiters.
Yeah, same thing as the compressors. I just like to spread it up.
Yeah.
So you can do some gain staging. I'd rather push 2 limiters 5 dB than 1 limiter 10 dB.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just to put less strain on one limiter. There.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I think this is pretty much the project file from top to bottom. That's
Yeah,
really
I think
cool.
we've had it all.
Yeah, I think we touched everything. So I hope that like for people watching that was a really good, insightful experience. Especially for like the stacks of layers, because like a lot of tracks that I hear, you know, they're just not the most exciting of like, let's say supersaw layers, and I just think the layering is like almost like an essential key, and like the type of sounds that you're using, you could just have basic detuned saws, but we kind of have heard that already tons and tons of time.
Yeah, that's why I like to sample sounds, or use sounds from my keyboard. They're just different, and I just with resampling stuff, you can get a lot more creative than with just a supersaw or something, I think.
Yeah. I think it is time to take a look at some questions.
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay. Yeah, so let's take a look at some questions. Let's see what you have in store. Let's see what the internet has dragged in. Oh, it's Krona. I know him. He's on my Discord server. He doesn't have a question. He just wants us to check out his track. He has a track. Well, that's not a question, but we'll think about it. I'll open it up, Krona, and we will look for some other questions. Let's see. Arthena. What is Arthena? Where do you get your samples? Arthena wants to know where you find your samples.
Yeah, so many places. I mean, over the years, I've built my library, and I don't even know where I got them all. I kind of avoid cymatic samples, though. I think I've used a couple of cymatic samples in this project file.
One or two.
But
just for effects.
I kind of avoid samples that everyone's using. So I like to go in these unknown libraries of very lo-fi samples. Like these kicks, I don't know where I got them from, but they're very grungy. So I like to search for these grungy samples, like not very polished.
Is there like one brand name or just, I mean, you don't want to give away like your secret?
Yeah, sure. Wait, let me think. I think Sound Oracle are some pretty good sounds. Sound Oracle,
okay.
And Boy Wanda has a couple of sample banks, I think.
Yeah, he's
that are also really
producer.
Good.
For those who don't know. Okay, so that was a pretty decent question. Next question. What do we have next? No Man. How do you make your leads clean and clear? That's what No Man wants to know.
It depends. Like, as you might have heard, this lead is not clean at all. So it's a mixing and mastering thing. It's just trying to hide the flaws in your mix, I guess. I think sometimes I really work on a clean lead, but sometimes it just needs to be grungy, and you just need to mask it properly in your mix.
I think we're like taking just like especially like the vocal lead that was like as we mentioned before, like you will like drive stuff into the distortion really hard with the EQ peaks, and like when you listen to it all, it doesn't actually sound super distorted, which is like that's the clever thing about the mix. So it's almost like you're overdriving it, and that you hear that when it's in an individual sound, but then in the whole entire mix, like if you take a step out and listen to it in the context of all the drums and other sounds, that it actually sounds very clear because of that stuff that you did, which you might have thought was like almost too much, I suppose, on its own, but it makes sense in the context of everything. Is that something you actually do? Like when you're mixing, you actually make sure like you're mixing it with the other synths on at the same time, or do you just like solo a sound and then just... I
try not to solo things because it doesn't make sense in the mix to mix things solo. That's not the point of a mix, I think. It just needs to sound good as a whole. sometimes when I'm getting really detailed about stuff like clicks and pops in my vocal or something, of course I solo the vocal.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the time I'm just listening to the whole mix.
Wow. Okay, that's a quite a good one. Dan asked, "What was your creative process behind the visuals?" I suppose for the visuals for the
video. Yeah, as I've talked about, like we had this meaning of the depression amongst millennials because of this internet era we're in.
Yeah, I suppose that's why the computer is in there, and
yeah, that's a little nod to the meaning of the song. So yeah, I guess we started brainstorming with the directors, and they've had some good ideas for the different scenes. And yeah, we started talking, brainstorming, and that's where we got the script from, I guess.
Did you like do like a storyboard, like draw like each scene out, like a plan? Like, okay, we're gonna have a scene where someone's laying down on a slide.
We had all these scenes planned out beforehand, and also from the moment I started this track, I had the visual of a church in my head for some reason. I thought it suited the track very well, so I gave that to the directors, and that's where that first and that last scene came from.
Yeah. Is that also like a nearby, like a?
No.
No.
I had to drive 3 hours to that place.
Oh, okay.
But it was a really cool place, though.
Yeah. Next question by Louis. What is the most puzzle piece effect or synth that brought your whole song together? What was the, I suppose the piece. Let's say if you had to like say what's the most important element of your tracks that makes it from an unfinished track to like, you know, a thing that like, yeah, this is really coming together, this track, what would that element be then?
That's such a hard question. I don't think it's one element though. I think it's also getting used to how it sounds. Because sometimes I hate a track, or I don't necessarily like a track yet when I'm making it, but just by listening to it over and over again and adding small sounds to it over and over again, you start to get to a shape where you're starting to like it. And I guess just the thing of hearing it over and over again and getting used to how it sounds gets it closer to a finished state, I guess.
If you had to say, like, compare drums to synths to bass and even vocals, although not every song has vocals, but if you were to like compare those as like a group of elements, which would you give importance to? Or say like if you had to, like, you only had 10 hours left to finish a track and you had to choose one of these things to perfect or work on, then what would you choose?
Probably if it's a vocal track, probably the vocals.
Okay.
If it's, otherwise it would be the main lead synth. But I can get really picky about my drums too, like the transient of the kick. That's a really really hard to work on. So I get really perfectionists about that in my mixes and my mastering.
Reference tracks to like just make sure like, oh, the track that you're building is not like, you know, just sounds totally
I've done
whack.
it for a couple of songs that were really, really hard to mix and master. But sometimes I tend to push the frequency balance too much to the song I'm referencing to.
Okay.
So that's something I gotta avoid. So if I don't have big troubles with my mix, I avoid referencing tracks.
Okay, I thought that was a pretty good question. I suppose if you want to, we can like take a listen, because he did post a track underneath called Plug Walk. I could play a bit of that, and I don't know if I want. I could just play it through Skype as well, so you should be able to hear it.
Yeah, sure.
So this is Louis with his song called Plug Walk. Okay, that was Louis' track, Plug Walk. What would you say? Like, what was your first impressions?
I like the hip hop vibe, man. I like the tape stop effects. I gotta say, mixing wise, I'm not a great reference right now because I'm listening on Apple earbuds.
Yeah.
But for me, the bass was sounding a little loud. I don't know how that came through for you.
I like the tone of the bass. I suppose that was like the loudest element of everything. It did feel like maybe like the kick and some of the other elements did need to be just a little bit pushed in the mix just to match that the level of the bass, especially the vocal. The vocals were very like almost like distant. I mean, it's cool that they were in there, but like very far away compared to like the bass. Like the bass was like right up front, and then other elements were just further.
Yeah, I think that's one point. You should just put your bass a little bit more in the mix. Yeah, not much more to say, I guess.
No, but I did enjoy it actually. It was, you know, pretty good, like arrangement wise, pretty interesting. Kind of like sort of, I don't know, kind of reminded me of Flying Lotus, but just like with a lot more synthier elements. So yeah, it was pretty cool. So yeah, pretty cool. Cool, Louis. I'll pick another question. Oh, is Lucas. What's your favorite plugin? I think we know the answer to this, but what's the plugin you use most in your tracks?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna say S1, but apart from S1, I think Sound Toys, Little Alter Boy.
Oh.
I use it also way too much, also on synthesizers and everything.
Whoa.
So a lot of people use form and shifters on vocals, but I also use it very often on synths.
Well, the next level is like to start using it on like kicks and snares and.
Oh yeah, I've used it on snares. I've used it on basically everything, apart from 808s and kicks.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I still want to check that out. But for people who don't know, Little Alter Boy is like this. Just pitch shifting and formant pitch shifting vocal. So like you can like get like a vocal. I mean, you don't have to use it as a vocal, as we've just discussed. But I think like the intention, the most use. Like it's mostly used on vocals, and like you can keep it so that the vocal's in the same pitch, but the format changes, so it sounds like it's like coming from like a high pitched voice or like a low pitched voice, like the tonality, but it's still saying at the same pitch, if that makes sense. You know, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna do an example of me singing high and low to do that. I thought about doing that, but I was like, no, let's not do that. But yeah, that was a pretty good question. Let's see. Ruben has a question for you. He asked, would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Probably the 100 duck-sized horses.
I do feel like that would be the easier, because horses are pretty big. You know, they're like essentially bigger than people. Plus, like a duck that big, like if you've ever seen like a duck bill, like they're actually quite sharp. So that's like a huge duck bill.
Yeah, you'll never win.
No. That's no. Yeah. I don't know if we should listen to her song after that question. Like, I feel like, all right, maybe we'll just like do a listen. Here's some drums. That was it. 17 seconds of just drums and that bass sound, but I thought that was actually really good.
Yeah, I like the garage vibe. It reminded me of Go Parade and Ozza and all these guys.
Yeah, that was sick. You should make that longer than 17 seconds, because that was a very promising intro. Yeah, man,
was good.
And that vocal, ooh, textures. That's good stuff. Yeah. That's nice. Okay,
good job,
next
man.
question. Oh wow, this is a question for me.
What?
Hey Dylan, this is a question for you. I hope you don't mind if I take this question.
Sure, go ahead.
How did you learn in your first 6 months of producing, and anything that you wish you knew when you started out? I suppose he's asking like what I did for my first 6 months. So maybe he's also like in his first starting period. Although we can also ask this for you, like what were your first sort of ventures out into music production? Mine were like, I started out with like French house, and I thought it was so cool to like sample small parts of a track and then turn that into like a 4-minute track and be like, whoa, you can like make a whole song out of just a couple of seconds. I thought that was really cool. So like all my songs were just like samples of other songs, and then I'll just like put like, you know, like a beat repeat essentially on the master, and then just like, whoa, it's a remix and that kind of stuff. I also in FL Studio, which is what I started off with. I don't know if you've always been in Ableton from the beginning, but I was in FL Studio, and they have like all these demo projects, so you could like look inside and be like, whoa, that's how they made this. So like that's a fascination that I've kind of had ever since starting production. It's just learning like how other people made music. Like that's like one of like the first things I like that made me want to produce, was like seeing this video of like how Daft Punk made songs, and like they sampled parts. It's like that, always that breakdown, like just like we're doing in the stream. It's like that's like always been like sort of like an inspiration for me for music production. So it's actually kind of weird how we come like full circle. Like that's how I started off, and that's how what I'm doing right this second.
Yeah,
so that's
cool, man.
Yeah, but that's a little tangent. What was like your you said like for your songs, that's pretty much how you started. You just enjoyed putting that into a DAW form.
Well, when I was 13 years old, I think I was very much into deadmau5.
Oh.
And I think all I did was just recreate deadmau5 songs with Massive.
Whoa.
In FL Studio. I think that's how I started.
Cool.
Yeah. I just thought it was very cool how I could just make a 4/4 pattern with the kick drum in FL Studio. I thought everyone made this just on a keyboard or something. They manually just recorded everything.
Like they play the C note, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally thought that's how you made a song.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, Stanislav asked the question. He says, every time I try to finish a song, it sounds good in the program. I export it, and then it sounds shit or really silent. That sounds more like a technical problem than a actual like mixing or.
Yeah, you should check if normalize is activated in the export options, and also you should check I don't know where you're listening to your music, but if you're listening on iTunes, it might be the equalizer or some stuff that's in your settings from iTunes, because I've had the same issue.
Whoa, okay.
And also iTunes affects the stereo stuff. It plays more mono.
Wow, didn't know that. I listen to stuff on iTunes. Am I not getting an accurate representation of my music?
Yeah, I just noticed this recently. It's really weird.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. What else you could do is like check. Like you could drag the audio back into Ableton, like into a new session or whatever program you're using, and then you can see the WAV file, and you can be like, oh yeah, it's louder. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure exactly, but you can also...
Yeah, what you can do if it's an export issue, you could just, I don't know if you're in Ableton, but you can just route it into an audio track and just resample it.
Yeah.
And then save the resampled track as an audio file.
Yeah.
That way you know it's not an export issue.
Yeah. You can also do that in FL Studio. You can open up an Edison on the master and then record it in there. So yeah, we're problem solving on this live stream. We're like, what do they call it? I don't know, troubleshooters, I suppose. Okay. Taska Black is from Belgium. He's talking French. That's a good question. Like, you are from Belgium, so...
I am from Belgium.
Can you speak French?
I'm from the northern half of Belgium, so that we speak Dutch.
Uh-huh.
But in school we also learned French, so I speak a little bit of French.
But you wouldn't say you're fluent in French?
No, not at all.
Okay. Oh, because this person is from Quebec, Canada. So
Oh, yeah.
you could have
Okay,
had
I
like
see.
a French. It makes
Sorry,
me wonder
man.
if there's different dialects of French from France, because with Spanish there are tons of different dialects.
Yeah, I think so. I think Belgian French is pretty different from other French.
Oh. How do you make the lead sliding lead in the job? How do you make sliding leads? So I suppose he's talking about the so that must have been this part. That's the sliding lead I think he was referring to.
Yeah, that's
and
partial.
this was, you said, an audio file. So
Yeah, that's partially because the vocal was sliding that way, but I
Yeah.
also manipulated it with the Ableton transposition.
yeah, you also
Automation.
mentioned like
Yeah,
how you
I
make
use this a lot.
Yeah. So this is
So
a pretty cool
if-
trick.
If the melody of the original vocal sample is not exactly how I want it, I just correct it with this.
I wonder what this is gonna sound like if I do. Hey, that could be an idea for a remix or something. Okay, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, but that's how I do it. So
Yeah, pretty much. Are you like? You also do like? I mean, probably the slides aren't that long. They're probably more like this is probably a more realistic representation. So you
Yeah.
can have like a shorter slide and then it stays on one note.
yeah, that's how I do it. Probably not 18 semitones, but just like 2 or something.
Yeah. Let's do it a lot more subtly and see what that sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
Okay, we'll probably like just pick a couple more questions and then wrap it up. But hey, Taska, how did you get signed to Bitbird? Yeah, what was your how did that happen actually? How did you like join? Because you've been them since like around 2015, I think you started.
Yeah, I think that 2015 was the first year.
And you've
So I
really
think
been
I
there
just-
since the beginning. You've really grown with them.
Yeah. I literally started in 2015, I think. I literally had 4 followers on SoundCloud. I just started out as Taska Black, and I sent them a mail because they're based in the Netherlands, so that's next to Belgium. So I thought, okay, they're not huge yet, and I thought I didn't really make a chance with Monstercat.
So that Monstercat's actually always been kind of in your radar since even back.
Yeah, sure, yeah. So I sent them a demo, and yeah, they replied they really liked it. We ended up putting out a single, which was Right Now, and that was my first single on Bitbird as Taska Black. And I've been talking to them since then, and Sonolo has believed in me since then. So I've done a couple more releases, and that's how we got talking, I guess.
Sweet. Really cool. Yeah, just kind of hit him up, and
yeah, it was pretty early on. Like Bitbird wasn't super big back then yet, so I guess it was a little easier to get in touch with them than it is now.
yeah, I'm pretty sure the sort of the barrier, I suppose, is a bit higher. But then,
But I mean, I've gone through all the struggle of demo boxes and whatnot.
yeah. And I suppose the last question we're gonna do is from Olivier, and he asks, "What is your advice on making breakdowns? I always make a build up and drop pretty quick, but most of the time I have no idea what to do after the drop, and then I end up being stuck in the project. And I don't just want to copy and paste the first build up. He tries to do some melodic stuff, but that gets boring after you've done that in 2 tracks. I love your music, and I really like to hear your advice on this."
I actually do copy and paste the first part, and then I just start switching things up from there.
Okay.
I guess that's the easiest way to do things. And if you're talking about an actual breakdown instead of a second verse or something, because usually what I do is after the first drop, I just go into the second verse with my vocal,
Yeah.
But for a real breakdown, I usually just make it as simple as possible. Take the basic layer of chords. Yeah, there's not really a breakdown in this song though, but
No, this is
I
quite
just
like
take
a
like,
linear sort of track.
yeah, I like to keep it experimental with this song, but
Yeah.
usually for the breakdown, I just take the most essential chord layer I have and I extend that for a bit. And yeah, I just let things go easy for like 8 bars or 16 bars or something. Just not a lot of elements for my breakdowns.
Okay. So I think that was our last question that we're going to do. I know Olivier, he's sent in project before. He's really good. He makes great music. And another person who sent in a question earlier had a remix of... Oh wait, no. Those are two different people. Okay, I don't want to embarrass myself live on live stream, so I won't say that. However, yeah, his artist name is Scarber, and he makes really great music. He sent in a couple stuff before, so this is one of his tracks that he just released 8 days ago. So that was just the first drop. What was your impression of that?
I like it, man. I also like that. What is it? A guitar sound, like a sitar or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of an Asian.
Yeah, it's a cool sound, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah.
Only thing I would add, in my personal opinion, is a vocal or a vocal sample. But other than that, it was a great track, man.
Yeah, I liked it a lot as well. And I'm used to him sending pretty good, decent stuff, and I'll just send you that. I'll just post it, drop it in the Skype chat, just just in case you want to check it out later, because that'd be a cool little thing for him. But I think that pretty much wraps up our stream. I want to thank you so much for like doing this, for like coming on stream with us and just showing us your amazing track and your project, and answering questions and listening to some songs.
No problem, man.
It's been
pleasure
really fun
to be here.
And
I've been thinking of ways to do something production related for a while, so it's nice to be here. Cool.
Yeah, I think everybody has really appreciated it. So if you had a good time, let Taska Black know. And if you haven't seen it yet, definitely go check out his music video, Dead Inside. And also, I just remembered, next week, also to be really excited about, is you're having like a really good period at the moment. Like, Monstercat release, this Dead Inside music video, and now next week you have a track with Sun Holo coming out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that, but I can't talk a lot about it.
No. Okay. You can't. You're not allowed to. But could you maybe just whistle or hum just a teaser of what it might sound like? I have to say that was really impressive whistling. Wow, that's good whistling skills. Yeah, that's my skills.
Yeah, that was a Taska Black whistle. So.
Wow, that's the signature whistle right there. Okay, we won't go too much in it, but it was fun making a track with Sound Hollow. Like,
yeah, definitely it was great being in the studio with this guy.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, coming out next week. Very excited.
Yeah, and that's also going to be on Bitbird as well.
Yes.
Okay.
It will be on Bitbird.
Was that just recently there was like a sort of video shoot, and you asked people to be there. Was that for? Is this like music video for this song coming out?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I guess we'll just have to wait and see where that.
I don't know. I also don't know what I can reveal about this. So
yeah, okay, I don't want to push you. I've asked
but
enough.
You'll see it coming through soon.
Yeah, it's really soon. Like it comes out next Friday, something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So yeah, once again, thank you really much for just being here and showing us all a really good time and answering our questions.
Thank you, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna end the stream, but yeah.
All
I
right,
hope
cool.
everybody enjoyed that, and I will be seeing you soon again. So
yeah, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Ending